kicked off.
All right, groovy. All right, let's get going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen with you all. Just one moment, guys. All right, hopefully you can all see that. Again, type in the box if you can't, and hopefully then we'll sort that out. So welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. We were quite overwhelmed by the amount of people that signed up to this. That's really, really cool. And like I said earlier, first day of the lockdown, I'm sure we're all feeling interesting emotions right now, but very groovy that we can get nearly 70 of us in a room together, connecting. So that's very, very cool. So today we really want to help. We're going to share a few things with you, and hopefully you can take away some stuff that will help you. Also, if you've got some things to share as well, when I ask those questions, or when Seth puts those questions out, yeah, please, yeah, feel free to pipe up with some information, because it's quite good to share with others what you're doing as well. It's working. So that's pretty much how it's going to work today. Hopefully you can all see this screen. Just let me know, Seth, if there's any technical difficulties, and I'll stop talking. It's a bit like talking to yourself. I don't know if any of you guys have hosted a webinar before. It's a little bit odd because you haven't got that feedback. So I'll probably laugh at my own jokes, and maybe you'll laugh along or not. I don't know. Anyway, so this is what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. Is, for those of you who don't know who we are, we'll just share a little bit about who we are and what's our gig and why we do what we do. I'm going to split the session into 3 blocks. So first of all, we're going to look at probably what is the biggest risk to all of us at the moment is psychological health. We'll look at the second block, which is managing worry and anxiety. And then lastly, that working from home best practice piece as well. Yep. And then lastly, so as we go through, we'll stop. We'll take some questions. And then at the end, we'll have some more space for questions as well. All right. Okay, I'm just checking my chat screen. So if I pause, it's just that I am checking things. Cool. All right. All right. Awesome. Great. Cool. Okie dokie. Let's get cracking. So I had a look at the attendance list for today, and a lot of you I know well, so thanks for coming back, guys. It's always nice to have your very loyal clients and things, and welcome to those of you who are new. It's really, really great to have you along. A little bit about us. We are a workplace psychology practice, so all our stuff's underpinned by psychology. All of us have had training in that area, so that's kind of the angle that we come at. It's our philosophical underpinning is psychology. So a lot of the concepts and things that I talk about today are from things like positive psychology, CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, or training, however you like to call it, and also ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy or training. So that's kind of where we draw from our work from. So for those of you who don't know, psychologists here, we study people and behaviour. That's kind of what we're interested in, and we take an evidence-based approach. So as you've probably seen, there is so much information out there in the world. There is so much stuff. And what we do is we take the information that we know is credible, that has, I guess, evidence behind it to suggest that it works, and we sieve through all that stuff, and then we I guess translate it or interpret it for you guys in the working world, so that you can get the best results possible. And lastly, something you may not know about us is that we're governed by a professional body, and also legislation, so to make sure that we are doing no harm and we are doing the best by all of our clients. So that's a little bit about us. If you ever want to learn more, just let me know, give me a call, and I can happily prattle on about psychology to the cows come home. All right, so the first topic we want to dive into today is psychological health. Now, why I've picked this one is because I see it as the biggest risk to us at the moment. We are in unprecedented times. I think you'd all agree with that. We are in a pandemic situation where we are all basically, most of us are working from home or isolated from friends and family. So it is a very unique situation that we have not experienced before. There isn't a lot of research around the world on this, simply because this is new. We have got some research from the Christchurch earthquakes in terms of what happened there. There is actually some research coming out from Sheffield University in the next couple of weeks around the impacts of psychological health during a pandemic. So look out for that. That will certainly be very enlightening. That research has been done, I think, on 2,000 participants in the UK. So psychological health. This one, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through a framework that we use here at The Effect, which is called the 5 to Thrive framework. And we use this one because we believe it has the 5 kind of key things you need to look out for and monitor in terms of your psychological health. So as I go through this, I guess it's thinking about this for yourself as a leader first, because you have to have this, you have to have your psychological health as a leader. Otherwise, leading other people can become challenging, and it's already challenging enough as it is. But also thinking in terms of your team members as I walk through this as well. So, Seth, I might just pause there for a minute. Is there any questions or anything that has come back from the group so far?
No, nothing as of yet, but I'm sure we will get some stuff come through. So yeah, team, everybody, please feel free to connect with us, your questions through the chat box, and we'll get either Bridget or myself to answer it as we go. All right. Okay,
cool. So shall I run through the session, Seth, and then we'll do a poll, or would you like to do a poll first off?
Up to you.
What should we do? Let's see. Let's do a poll. Should we put a question out there? Right, you're going to see a box come up in the front of your screen. It's going to ask you a question. I think, what is your biggest concern right now? And hit one of those. And let's see what is concerning people the most out there at the moment. Are you getting some answers?
Yep, starting to come in thick and fast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Bridget, pretty overwhelmingly, we're starting to see a trend. Naturally, family is the biggest concern right now, over 50% of participants,
Wow.
followed by the economy at around 30%. And then we have the organisation, the environment, and leading team just under 10%, each of them.
Wow, so the number one
concern. We'll share those as well.
Okay, great. So the number one concern is family at the moment for most people.
Yes, that's the case.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, all right, so as we go through this, I'll try and talk to this in terms of family stuff as well. All right, so the first thing in terms of 5 to Thrive, the first thing that I guess we look at is the sleep component. Seems really simple, but in my line of work, it seems to be one of the number one things that a lot of people have trouble with. Oh, there's the box. So the box has come up on my screen. I'm hoping it's come up on yours as well. Wow, family is definitely the biggest one. Okay. Interesting. As most of you all know, the average human being or the average adult should be getting between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night, except for a small portion of the population who can survive off less. I guess at the end of the day, you know what your norm is. If your normal is 6.5 hours sleep, then that's fine. But what we know is that, you know, some research has told us that if you have 30 minutes less than what your norm is, that can have a significant impact, in particular on your performance, because your ability to process information, retain information, and problem solve is not quite as good as it would be if you'd had a normal night's sleep. And then also your tolerance starts to decrease. And this is something that we don't want to happen now, because we're all at home, living in our houses with our families and things, which is not a normal thing when we're there all the time together. So your tolerance levels might already be a bit challenged, let alone not having enough sleep. So, for example, you may not be as tolerant as usual to, you know, with your kids or with your partner, your significant other. When you're in the supermarket aisle, your tolerance might go down a little bit. You might start doing things that you wouldn't normally do, like going and buying shitloads of toilet paper, maybe. I don't know, I'll just put that out there. Or finding yourself bursting into tears for no reason. So the sleep component is really, really important. And there's lots of information out there. We've certainly got some more information as well if you're interested in it. In terms of how to make sure that you are sleeping properly throughout this period of time that we're going through at the moment, because it is really, really important. The brain essentially just needs to rest. It needs to shut down, and that's what sleep does for it. It shuts it down and gives it that opportunity to repair. So I think have a think to yourself right now on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being sleep's not happening at all, 10 being sleep's going great. Give yourself a number. I'd write that down because we want to see what areas you're doing good at the moment and what areas perhaps you need to put a bit of energy into. All right, the next one is exercise. We all know how fabulous exercise is. It doesn't make it any easier to do it, right? So they say roughly about 20 hours a day, 20 minutes a day, crikey. Mind you, I think there is one gentleman in Italy who's probably doing that with the marathon on his deck. I don't know if any of you have seen that. So 20 minutes a day on average is enough for you to get a good dose of chemicals. And so dose stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So those are the chemicals that make you feel flash, make you feel good. So if you and your family can, it's really important to get outside. Outside is better if you can, in the backyard or wherever it's going to work in terms of the social distancing thing, because it gives you those nice, happy, feel-good chemicals. Actually, if you're interested, on my Facebook, I posted last night a family doing some exercise indoor with their kids. They are very creative games that they were playing there. We have had or seen some research come out of Scandinavia around GPs prescribing people going for walks outside in the bush or forests, and how that can be just as effective as an antidepressant. So there is definitely something in exercise. I highly recommend it, even if it's just running up and down your stairs, I don't know, planking in front of your TV. Get creative, move. You'll probably find you do less steps because you're not walking around the office as much. On average, for example, I might do, over 2,000 steps in an office environment, but home, going from the couch to the kitchen, you'll probably won't even hit 1,000. So again, from 1 to 10, 1, doing no exercise, 10, nailing it, doing a marathon outside of my backyard. Give yourself a number and just check in where you're at with that. All right, number 3, nutrition. Now, I'm not a nutritionalist, absolutely not. But nutrition is linked to the brain. So your brain is an electrochemical device. There's nothing else in the world like it, to be honest. It's like having a light bulb in a jug of water. Electricity and chemicals together. It's very unique. So I guess why do I care about that is that whatever you put in your system is going to have an interaction of some sort. And we know, if any of you have been to the Ben Warren talks, which are quite good, I did go to one a while back with Auntie, is that today we're a little bit nutrient depleted due to various reasons, which I won't go into because I'm not the expert in that area. But we're not getting as many nutrients as we used to. So if you think of a broccoli that your granddad grew when he was a young adult, compared to a broccoli that you would get out of a supermarket today, the difference in nutrients would be massive. We just do not get as much. And during these stressful times, zinc and magnesium are nutrients that are really quite helpful for us because they help us to be calm, and they also help with sleep. So my message here is, I know we should eat right, but it's particularly important right now is to make sure that we're getting adequate nutrients. So again, 1 to 10, where do you sit? 1, I'm having cake every day, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, to have a little bit of cake here and there, because it does evoke positive memories, emotions, right? But yeah, it's in moderation. And then 10, no, I'm nailing the diet nutrition aspect. Okay, I won't bumble my way through that anymore because I'm not a nutritionist. That's all I've got, but it's important, is my message. Okay, connect. This is going to be probably the biggest one, is we have lost this. We've lost this now and how we traditionally used to do it, is that we are not able to have a yak with someone, you know, on the side of the street when we're walking the dog. I mean, we probably could, but at a 2-meter distance. We're not going to work or Girl Guides or school drop-offs anymore, or the shopping mall where we might bump into someone. We're missing all those informal conversations and those corridor conversations that we have at work as well. So I think we are all clear that connection is going to be something that we really need to work on going forward as leaders, but also just as people, and how we do that. Social interactions are hugely important in that sense of belonging, so not feeling isolated. There's been quite a lot of research come out in the last few years around people feeling lonely, and we can see direct links between loneliness and quality of life. So this is going to be something that's very, very important to focus on, is making sure we still connect. And lastly, this whole idea of giving. Giving's a great thing, and I've seen so much of it. I don't know about you guys. I've seen so many people be kind and generous and give since we've been going through this. It's really amazing to see. It's great. But giving is like a two-way thing, right? When you give something or help someone else out, that evokes positive emotions in them, but it also does the same for you. So it's good for the spirit. It's good for the soul. It's creating little moments every day where we can help someone out or give something. And that helps us in terms of also our purpose, that higher meaning, which is very important to us as human beings. So in a nutshell, that's the 5. So with each one, I think I forgot to ask with the last 2. Give yourself a rating from 1 to 10. Where do you sit? And what I'd like you to do is look at those and pick the one that perhaps is the lower down the scale, because that's the one that you might want to focus on, trying to lift up a little bit. So for example, if your exercise 1 is 3, then that may be something you want to get some habits around shortly to help you out. But if you can monitor those 5 in yourself and your family, and then also your teams, we're more likely to be happier, healthier. All right, Seth, is there any questions come through as I've been chatting away here?
No, none.
None?
Yeah.
Is everyone still there?
Yeah, no, we've got everybody on board. No,
okay,
no
cool.
questions come through.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll move on to the next part, which is this whole thing about managing worry and anxiety. We did have a few questions leading into this webinar around this. This is a very real thing right now. We are worried, and there are some very anxious people out there in the world right now, including some of us. So I wanted to talk about this. A, I wanted to talk about what it is, and B, I wanted to share with you what can we do about it for ourselves, but also for others as well. So what is worry? Well, we all do worry. It's just a normal human behavior. It is linked to kind of self-preservation a little bit. If you didn't worry, then you wouldn't be on the lookout for risks and things like that in your environment. But worry is essentially thinking ahead. And that's useful for us because it helps us in terms of planning our goals, problem solving, trying to make contingency plans for things. It's very, very useful. It can also go against us a bit as well, though, where we worry to the point where it can cripple us a bit. So we start to worry about things that haven't happened, or worry about things that are not within our control. And that's probably going to be a big thing here for a lot of people at the moment, is that a lot of us have lost control of our lives because of what they were and now what they have to be. So I'm going to introduce you to a concept called the worry chain. So worry is like a chain of thoughts and images in your mind. So you might have, for example, COVID-19, you might have an initial thought of, oh, I've got a cough or a headache. So that's one thought. And that might keep going to, maybe I've got coronavirus, COVID-19. Then you might think, okay, well, I was at work last week. Have I given it to everyone? There was a person in Australia who went to a party and they gave it to 25 people. Well, I've passed it on to everyone. oh my gosh, is everyone going to die? This is an apocalypse. So can you see how the thoughts, they go on a chain? And my main message here is for yourself is kind of watch your thoughts, watch what's going on there, try and catch them. I have a headache. That's a pretty normal worry. What if it's coronavirus? Okay, reasonable. Maybe I pass it on to everyone. Okay, all right, but is this starting to be helpful for you? Will everyone die? These thoughts starting to make you feel not so great. So that's when the worry can start to get out of control. So for yourself, it's catching those thoughts. And for your teams and your families, I guess it's checking in with them frequently. How are you going? What are your thoughts? Just to see whereabouts they are in that worry chain. A person I was talking to the other day, that they're right down the end of that worry chain at the moment. That's where they are, which is causing them massive anxiety. So it's really important, I think, to check in with yourself, but also other people as well. So what triggers worry and anxiety? Well, a lot of things can make us anxious. I was slightly anxious about today, to be honest. So it's there's lots of things that can make you feel worried or anxious. But the three probably top ones that I personally think can really trigger worry is the ambiguity. So not having clarity, not being clear about what's going on. Change. So having to come off autopilot. We do live a large proportion of our lives on autopilot. We have such embedded routines, and then having to stop them and create new ones is a bit tricky for our brains. And then this whole unpredictability piece. So not having certainty and not knowing what is going on or what is going to happen. Is this going to last for 4 weeks? Is this going to last for 8 weeks? We don't know. We don't know what's going on. So unfortunately, COVID-19 hits all three of those. So brutal facts. There are a lot of people out there who are very worried and anxious. That is a very real thing. So, when does worry become a problem? Like I said before, worry is a normal human behavior. We all do it. And, it's fine. It can be helpful because it can help us manage risks. It can help us plan and all those things. So if you look at this, I created this thing called the worry road. I didn't think about that when I wrote it because saying worry road is actually quite difficult to say. So normal worry, that's fine. That's all good. But if we slide down the road a little bit, we drive down the road a bit, we can get into this place of excessive worry. So this may look like that we are constantly maybe just demonstrating behaviors of constantly looking on the internet about all the disaster stuff that's happening, all the negative stuff that's happening out of there. We start to worry. We have a lot of worry chains going on, and we're getting right down those worry chains. And this may even be affecting our sleep. It could be affecting our relationships with people. It could be distracting from our work. And this can become ultimately exhausting when you have excessive worry. And then you can slide down the road or drive down the road even further, and it can turn into anxiety. And this is where it impacts basically on your quality of life, which is not a great thing. It's absolutely not a great thing. So we want to make sure that we differentiate the types of worry that we're seeing. Is a colleague or what a family member is saying, is it normal worry, that normal concerns that they're having? Like, for example, it is right to be worried about COVID-19. Therefore, we will follow the guidelines from the government, and we will stay in our houses and all that. So that's fine. That's helpful. But sitting here worrying excessively is starting to get into that unhelpful worry zone, if that makes sense. So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? There's quite a few different things you can do about it, and I always like to present people with a smorgasbord of things because I think different strokes for different folks, right? Different things work for us. So what I've got 4 here, and then I'll run you through one. And then if you want to learn more about the others, just let me know. So one thing that you can do is create we actually have one. You have a decision tree, and it's like a flow chart that kind of helps you to differentiate between what is a genuine problem and what is like probably more of a worry that's hypothetical or not really real. So it helps you to distinguish between what is real and what is perhaps getting, those worry chains getting a bit carried away in your head. It's quite a groovy little diagram. The next one, you would have heard this one heaps. A lot of people use this, is this worry time concept. So that's about allotting time to worry or postponing worry. So you are taking a bit of control of the worry. It works for some people, most definitely. I tried it myself once, where I sat there and purposely worried about something for a good hour or so. Then by the end of it, you've exhausted yourself. You're a bit tired of it. You don't want to know it anymore. So that's another technique. Another one is reframing your thoughts. So catching those thoughts in the worry chain and going, hang on, I'm getting myself into a bit of a chain here. Are these thoughts helpful? How are they making me feel? And do I perhaps need to think in another way? So we could look at it in a real simplistic way, that thoughts drive feelings, feelings drive behavior. Or feelings can also drive thoughts as well. So if I have thoughts around this is never going to end, it's going to carry on, that's going to make me feel quite anxious. Whereas if I can reframe that thought to, okay, I want to take one day at a time. I'm just going to focus on the present moment, enjoying myself, talking to myself. I feel, because it does feel like you're talking to yourself here, with 50 odd people watching, and hoping they're getting something out of this. So I'm just focusing on right now. That's what's important. And lastly is something called the ACE tool. This was created by Dr. Russ Harris. He's a pretty cool dude. I quite like some of his stuff. And I'll show you a bit how you can use this tool. It's kind of similar to the S.A.N.E framework, that PDF you got sent out at first. It's a grounding type exercise. And it ties in, I guess, a lot of what I've said already as well. It's about, first of all, acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. So try not to push them away if you can. When we push them away, your thoughts can be like boomerangs sometimes. They can come flying back and smack you on the face. So it's acknowledging your thoughts and feelings. So, right now I feel a bit trapped. And my thoughts are that I'm wondering what's going to happen. Okay, so acknowledge them. Then it's bringing them back. So it's coming back into the present moment. So like I talked about before, coming back into this webinar right now. So, feel yourself sitting in your chair. If you've got a nice smelling plant or flower in your office or room or lounge, wherever you're sitting, is just breathing that in and smelling that. It's listening to the sounds that you hear out there. I just heard a bird. And I've just noticed it's raining. So it's really coming back into your body. And then it's about engaging in what you're doing right now. So I guess something that I always say to myself is, what's important now? What is right important now is talking to you folk. That's what's important now, and that's where I'm channeling my brain. So it's a nice kind of focusing tool that you can use for yourself, especially if you are starting to feel quite worked up. This is a good thing to use, this ACE tool. And it can be used with children as well. Actually, you can have quite a lot of fun with it with kids. They're very good at coming back into their body. So yeah, we've got lots of information all over the place around these tools, and you'll probably see lots of information out there in the internet, but there's different ways to manage worry and anxiety. I guess my main message is with this is to regularly check in with people, yourself and your family, and your colleagues, because if you don't check in, you may not know what's going on for them, and if they are very worried or experiencing anxiety, because you don't see them now. You don't see them like you used to. And that's a real risk here, is that we don't see our work colleagues like we used to. You know what it was like walking into the office. You get a feel for people. That's going to be a bit more tricky to pick up now. So it's really important that we check in with each other. Okay. All right, Seth, I'll pause there. Seth, any questions, or do we want to run another poll?
Yeah, Bridget, we got a few questions actually. So we've had one come through from Sarah Howe, and she asked, when we catch up with family or friends on the phone, all we talk about is COVID-19 at the moment, which is understandable. Said, is this a good thing to mull it over, or should we deliberately be trying to talk about non-related topics, non-COVID related topics?
Okay, cool. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for your question. That's really cool. So what I understand is that when you catch up with family and friends on the phone at the moment, it's talking a lot about COVID-19. Should you do that? Yeah, I think, yeah, we can talk about it, but I think it might be good to take a balanced approach with it, and maybe an amount of time that you would talk about it, and then maybe move on to other things, because you don't want it to become all consuming, and then you're not focusing on other things that are important in life as well. You get what you focus on with the brain. So if it's all COVID-19, that's all your brain's getting. And I mean, I don't know what the conversations are, but if, you know, from what I've picked up, they can evoke quite a lot of feelings and emotions that are perhaps more negative or unhelpful, potentially. So I think it's a good idea to, talk about it, but have a limit on it. For example, some people, in terms of social media, might only check it once a day instead of being on it all the time. I think for balance, it's important to talk about other things, most definitely. Hope that helps.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bridget. We also have a question from Laura. She wants to know, how do we help our team if they're having thoughts on the worry chain and they cannot pull their own thoughts, and what can we do to assist them to work their way through this?
Nice question. Hi, Laura. Thanks for asking your question. So my understanding of that question is, how do we help our team who are on the worry chain? Is that right, Seth?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So I think first we'll get them to notice their thoughts. So what are the current thoughts you're having at the moment? So it's talking about your thoughts like you're observing them. It's a bit weird. It's a bit odd. It's called metacognition. So it's thinking about your thinking. So asking them, so what kind of thoughts are going through your head at the moment? Oh, I'm having thoughts of blah, 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 blah. Okay, right. And by talking about our thoughts or labeling our thoughts, they lose their power a little bit, because it's almost like you've removed yourself from your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You're now watching your thoughts. So I think it's quite good for, name it to tame it, is something some of you might have heard me say before. Get them to acknowledge what their thoughts are out loud, or even write them down, if that works as well. The other thing as well is helping them to reframe. So asking them questions of how they could look at something differently. So for example, if they are having thoughts around, oh, I'm an extrovert and I need a lot of social interaction. How am I going to get this in this environment? I'm at home all the time. What am I going to do? So acknowledge the thought, okay, I'm an extrovert and I have thoughts of concern around not being able to socialize. And then ask them, okay, so what's another way you could look at this? I have access to Messenger, email, video, phone. I have a lot of devices at my fingertips to communicate with different people. So there's definitely, it's not completely cut off. There are other options. So it's, helping them to reframe, and then also, I guess, giving them that perspective as well. Because sometimes they think, oh no, it's all over, black and white. But actually, no, we've got more technology than we've ever had in terms of communication. But you think of the old days, when we just had those phones, I'm showing my age, we've got shitloads of stuff that we can communicate on now. So yeah, those would be some of the things that I'd do, Laura.
Cool. And then we just had one private question, Bridget, come through. I'll read it out to you. So I have staff that have been gripped by fear and panic. What, as a leader, should I be telling them?
I've had staff gripped by fear and panic. That's very real. I think, first of all, acknowledge it. Always acknowledge it and validate it, because they need that. They absolutely need that. So I know it's daunting to have to deal with, but you have to acknowledge it. There's absolutely no way of not doing that. And then I think with the team members, it will be working through with them one by one to identify again, what are their thoughts, what are their worry chains, what's going on in here, what's their thinking. talking is going to be so important right now. And once you can ascertain what their worry chains are, what are some of their thoughts are, you can then again help them to reframe, help to give them perspective, get them to come up with solutions and things, get them to focus on right now. A really good stuff for that, and maybe a good practice to get into with your team, is mindfulness stuff. So having some sort of mindfulness routine every day or every morning might be a good way to, I guess, calm the farm essentially. All right, I see, and thank you for that question, whoever sent that in. I see the box has popped up again, so we're going to do a poll, Seth.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay, so how many of your staff have you connected with directly over the past week to address their worries? We're getting some answers.
Yeah, pretty overwhelming. A lot of people have connected with a lot of their staff if they're direct managers, but I will share this soon. We're getting them coming in thick and fast.
Oh, cool.
Bridget, just while we wait on that, we've had another private question come through around what to tell kids. So kids are asking questions around why they cannot attend or be in school. What, in your opinion, should be communicated to kids?
I just want to first put out there that I'm not a child psychologist, so there'll be other psychologists out there that would probably have better advice than me, just framing it up. But having kids myself, I've got a 7 and a 5-year-old. I think for me, it's been honest, but it's been honest. Don't give them too much detail. Just give them the basics, because their brains, from my understanding, they won't understand a lot of it because a lot of it's not, a virus going around. It's very abstract to them. So just giving them basic information, listening to, I guess, any concerns that they have, acknowledging them, and then again focusing on, I guess, what's important now is, okay, we're going to do some homeschooling. We're going to have some fun here as well. So. I'd also probably watch out for if some kids are starting to get anxious or worry. I'm getting out of my realm here of expertise, but you might see some changes in their behaviours, and that's probably a good indication that they're not feeling that fresh. There was actually a resource by a really cool guy that I saw a couple of weeks ago. I can send that out to people if they're interested. It was just a brief video on what to say to kids. He was very good. I like what he talked about. It's quite specific, so I can send that out. Okay, the poll. So, wow, most people, that's fantastic. So we're connecting. That's really, really good. That's awesome. Okay, can everyone, Seth, can everyone see that? That comes up on the screen?
Yeah, okay. It should pop up on everybody's screens. If they're on, they should be able to see it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll get on to the last section, which is working from home best practice. So a model that we use is just like a 4-prong model. I'll give it to you, really briefly today. There's obviously a lot more in it than what I'm showing you here, but it's lead, mind, connect, perform. 4 things as a leader that I need to be thinking about going forward. So the first one is this lead component. So you're going to have to start sharing more than you usually would. So giving people more information, because at the moment we're dealing with people with lots of worry chains, right? And potentially people who are anxious. So when we are worried, we tend to, and we don't have all the information, the brain does this really crazy thing where it'll just make stuff up to make sense of the situation. We're very good at doing that. Assumptions is what we do. And sometimes they're right, but sometimes, we can get way off. So you need to share more as a leader now. Keep people up to date more with what things are going on. You also need to reassure people, because people are going to be worried about their jobs. They're going to be worried about the financial implications and things like that. So it's being honest and open as much as you can or are able to as a leader, to reassure people. So again, they're not making assumptions or going down that worry chain to catastrophizing. And lastly is this whole thing of being equally accessible to your people. So this is something you're going to have to watch out for, because again, we're all in different locations and things, it's making sure that everyone gets access to you and equally, that some are not getting less than others, because that can start to cause issues later on. We have seen some research that conflict can increase with remote working, because people adopt these worry chains of, oh my gosh, what's so-and-so saying behind my back because I'm not there. So some of that kind of stuff can go on. So share, reassure, and be accessible. The mind part. So yeah, mind your thoughts. You've got thoughts too as a leader, and we have all sorts of thoughts going on there, but just watch them. Notice what you're thinking, because your thoughts drive how you feel and essentially how you behave and how you lead. So it's I can't emphasize enough just to take note of your thoughts, what's going on in the upstairs department. Try and use positive language as much as you can, because there's a lot of, I guess, scary language going on out there at the moment, you know, crisis and, you know, lockdown and pandemic. Jeepers, like even just after saying those 3 words, I feel anxious. So try and use lots of positive stuff as well. Yeah, to counteract a lot of the, I guess, negative words out there. And then the S.A.N.E framework, you've all been sent that one. So that's a tool in terms of how to stay focused, to channel your thinking. I guess keep in control of your mind so that your mind doesn't take over control of you. Essentially, is that what that is there. The next one is connect. So you've probably all done this already. I would do a launch meeting to start off with. And what I mean by launch meeting is a meeting about okay, this is how we're going to do things going forward. You know, what kind of things are important to you. So launching and signaling to the brains out there that, okay, this is our new way and this is what we're going to do. Really useful to have some sort of social channel. There's heaps out there, right? Yammer, Slack, Messenger, WhatsApp, Facebook, even, you know, whatever. I think it's quite good to have some kind of social tool that we can just type away and have those informal communications. So we're trying to create those. And then the water cooler conversations, we've lost those now. But when we do meet as teams, instead of cutting straight to business and launching right into it, you have a couple of minutes of, you know, how's things going, how the kids, or you know, did you watch Married at First Sight last night, or whatever. You're going to have to allot those water cooler conversations into your meetings now. Otherwise, it's going to get all very transactional. And we know that we don't do all that well on that all the time. The next one is perform. So you want to create rituals for yourself and then encourage your team to create rituals. So for example, a ritual that I've created is I've created a work commute. What I do is in the mornings I get up, I go and walk the dogs for 40 minutes and then I walk back to the house and that's my commute to work, and then I start work. And then at the end of the day, I do the same thing. So it's signaling to my brain, this is my routine, this is when I start work and this is when I finish work. So rituals, new rituals are going to be really important right now, and also team rituals as well. So I know one organisation, they're having Frothy Fridays, which is a beer together virtually at 4 o'clock on a Friday. I think the Japanese do it, nomi time or something along the lines of that. So yeah, so creating some new rituals. Create a team rhythm. You had a team rhythm back in the office. So it's creating a new team rhythm. So whether it be that we meet every morning or once a week, yeah, things like that are really important, so that we can kind of get back into that autopilot mode again, which our brains so much love. Trust. So leaders, trust your people. You've got to trust them. Trust your teams that they're doing the best that they can. What we've found in some research from remote workers is that people, especially ones with people who have kids at home, they feel guilty that they're not dedicating as much time to work because they've got either children or dependents that they have to look after. And what they end up doing is working even harder to compensate for the feeling of feeling guilty. We don't want that to happen. We don't want people to burn out from working at home. That's not great. So it's sending the messages that, hey, I get that it's difficult at home, that there's only so much you can do day hours. I trust that you will get done what you need to get done when you need to do it. So trust your people. And lastly, it's giving people clarity around tasks and processes, especially now, because I'm guessing for a lot of you, some people's world's working jobs have probably turned upside down a bit now. And very quickly, like far out, the pace of change has just been phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. So trying where you can to give clarity around tasks, but also processes as well. That's really, really helpful for people, because remember, ambiguity and unpredictable, those are two things that are going to provoke the worry chain to kick off. All right, that's it. Seth, have you got any questions?
Bridget, no, not at this stage, but we'll probably just launch our final poll.
Okay.
See what people are thinking. I'm just mindful of time, that people do have other things on as well. So we'll launch that, and then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. If anyone does have questions, please chuck them into the forum, and we'll do our best to try and answer them.
All right. So what is your biggest barrier to remote leading?
While we wait for that one, Bridget, I've had another question come here through from Laura. She sort of made comment. She talked about the fact that they're an essential work category. A lot of their workers are working through the lockdown away from their families for 7 days straight. They're in different areas geographically. And she wants to know how does she ensure everyone is getting the correct information, are following processes, and that they interact with the whole team, given they're in 20 different places to Waikato and the Bay of Plenty.
Good grief. So a really dispersed team, and the question is, how do we get them all accurate information? Is that the question, Seth? Accurate information,
how do you get them interacting, given that they're in geographically dispersed locations?
Yeah, quite dispersed. I guess it's kind of two parts to that question. Is what is a good thing to do if you do have team meetings and not everyone can attend? Or 20 people in a team meeting is a pretty big meeting. If you do use Zoom, which is quite a good platform we've found, is that you can record those meetings. So if there's a meeting, record it and then send it out to the members that weren't there, so that they can keep up to date with what happened in that meeting. That function works really, really well. We've used it ourselves. The other thing is, I think what might be really useful is to have some sort of social, what do you call them, like a chat box thing, or like Yammer or Slack or Messenger or WhatsApp, something that people can informally keep up to date with each other on as well. So then it's written, people can go through and read, okay, that's what that conversation that's happened there as well. And another thing that I would do, you're probably already doing it, Laura, anyway, is I would do a weekly email out with the main points. So like a briefing of, okay, this is what happened last week, this is what was achieved, for example, and the priorities for this week are blah, 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 blah. So yeah, those are some of the things that I would do off the top of my head. All right, Seth, what we got? Anything else?
Yeah, so I've just launched the poll results. Looks like the majority, in terms of the barrier, is distractions.
Yeah, distractions, I think, is a very real one. And this is where, if possible, it's creating routines, and there might be different routines to what you're used to. So if you do live with someone else, it's not a bad idea to sit down and have a whānau meeting around, okay, what's our routine going to look like? Who can, will be a lot of times where you can have concentration time, so 2 hours in the morning, or 2 hours here, or whatever. You want to set up that stuff quite quickly, so then you can try and minimize those distractions. All right, are we nearly out of time, Seth? I've talked too much.
Yeah, looks that way.
Yeah, that's always the problem. Sorry, guys. So I guess what's next is that we have recorded this. So if you want a recording of this, then shout out. We can send that through to you. We'll send you through another resource as well, just to help out. And if you haven't already, jump on, take our readiness quiz. It's a good reflecting tool. If anything, it just gets you to reflect on how ready are you for this new world of work? And it might highlight to you some areas that you're doing really well in, which is awesome, and then some areas where you might want to invest some energy in. And then, and of course, if you've got any questions or anything, or you just want to have a chat, just reach out to me. More than happy to do that. Love to help where we can. So yeah, please feel free to do that. I guess, what are we doing going forward? We're finding quite a lot that a lot of people are wanting one-on-one coaching at the moment. A lot of leaders. I think it's obviously helpful in terms of providing a neutral space, but also having someone help work through their unique challenges. So there is coaching available if that's going to be something that would work for you and be useful. We do that virtually. All our workshops that we've been doing, we will be putting online. So that's pretty cool. And lastly, we have a new offering now, which is the Adapt Q program, which is all about remote leading. And as part of that, we have a mental health and wellbeing tracker, which gives you the ability to track the mental health and well-being of your people that you no longer see every day. So helping to give you more visibility on that, so that you're able to act when you can. So, all right, well, that's us. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope it was useful. Any questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I've got an email there at the bottom of the screen. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you. All right, Seth.